Hello everyone. Welcome to Invest Hong Kong's webinar on creative industries driving innovation and future growth. I am Kyoko Hashiba from Invest Hong Kong Tokyo office. Today, we have experts from Hong Kong, Australia, Japan and Korea to share with you the most updated trends and insights on the transforming creative industries landscape in Asia Pacific. Our format of this webinar will start with 2 presentations followed by a panel discussion. You are welcome to type in questions to the speakers in the Q&A box anytime in English, Japanese, and Korean. We will try to answer them during the panel discussion or follow up with you on them after the webinar. Now, we would like to start with a presentation from Ms. Doris Fon, Head of Creative Industries of Invest Hong Kong, to introduce you the latest opportunities and development in digital ecosystem of Hong Kong's creative industries. Doris, please.
Greetings to all our overseas audiences and those in Hong Kong. In the next 10 minutes, I'm pleased to present to you the latest digital ecosystem of the creative industries in Hong Kong and how it enhances the city's innovation and drive future growth. Now, let me share my screen. According to the Global Innovation Index in 2020, Hong Kong's numerous competitive advantages has positioned it as the global leader in creative output, due in large part to the creative outputs of the economy, specifically its position in printing and media output, creative goods exports, and online creativity. Hong Kong has a number of multinational creative companies spanning art and culture, design, media, entertainment, gaming, advertising, film, music, and beyond. It is home to 43,000 cultural and creative industries-related establishments, which employs approximately 217,000 professionals. As one of the most dynamic economic sectors, the creative economy accounts for 4.4% of Hong Kong's GDP. Hong Kong's creative and design industries are increasingly export-oriented, acting as a gateway to mainland China, as well as the wider Asia-Pacific region. Cultural and creative exports totaled $79 billion, accounting for 15% of Hong Kong total exports. Global demand for digital design is set to grow at a rate of 18%. LinkedIn has listed creativity and UX design as 2 of the top 20 skills to learn in 2020. And most organizations expect the design team to grow by at least 21% last year. Hong Kong is home to 7,600 design establishments, acting as a regional design center and providing a rich source of products and design talents. The city is well positioned to meet the continuous upsurge in demand for digital marketing, multimedia, and other digital design services. Hong Kong also has a strong foundation in advertising and marketing. Changing consumer behaviors has caused a shift towards digital platforms. Hong Kong internet advertising spend is projected to reach 6.5 billion Hong Kong dollars in 2021 and 8.2 billion by 2025. With online channels providing good return on investment, advertisers are investing more in new technologies, including applications, big data management, fintech applications, and mobile payments. Mainland China continues to be the world's second largest internet advertising market, with a projected ad spend of nearly $80 billion in 2021. Hong Kong-based agencies have helped reshape the mainland China market by developing top-quality creative talents and infrastructure. Marketing technologies have become an important tool for companies to effectively create, execute, and measure the success of marketing assets and campaigns. The MarTech industry is now valued at over $121 billion worldwide, and it is earning an average of 29% of marketing budgets. Spending of MarTech is expected to grow by 10% in 2022. In Hong Kong, we see a growing demand for different MarTech to manage advertising campaigns in the region. Within APAC, there are an estimated 600 MarTech vendors compared to 8,000 globally. Social and relationships vendors are by far the largest subcategory, accounting for 34% of all vendors. This session includes social listening, CRM technologies, content and experience, and commerce and sales vendors. As for the TV, film, and entertainment industry, the pandemic has propelled digital behaviors in many areas of life. Fueled by increasing broadband speeds and penetration, the demand for OTT video is growing globally and in Hong Kong. APAC is expected to overtake North America as the largest OTT region in terms of revenue in 2021. In 2020, consumption of visual media in North Asia rose by around 60% because of the rise of social distancing, quarantining, and staying at home policy. Hong Kong OTT video revenue is forecast to sustain rapid growth and will bypass traditional TV revenues by 2024, reaching 3.4 billion Hong Kong dollars by 2025. In gaming and esports, Hong Kong is a regional distribution center for games, with world-class digital infrastructure, liberal business environment, easy access to mainland and Asian markets. People are not only spending more time playing games, they are also spending more money, with 37% of Asian mobile gamers spending more than they did before the pandemic. Currently, video game revenue per capita is at US $136 per person in Hong Kong, compared to US $22 in mainland China. This is the fourth largest revenue per person in the world, behind South Korea, Japan, and Singapore. In July 2021, Animoca Brands, the Hong Kong-based company that brings digital property rights to gamers via NFTs, announced that it has completed its US $138 million unicorn capital raise. The company is spearheading the use of blockchain-based in-game rewards and creating innovative ways to monetize video games. Over the last decade, the Hong Kong art market has witnessed unprecedented growth. It is now the second largest art auction market in the world after New York, overtaking London, rising from 18% in 2019 to 23% of the global art auction market share in 2020. This has occurred in the same year that the global art market dipped 22% to $50 billion US. This is the result of a well-developed infrastructure of galleries and auction houses and its unique position as an entry point into the Chinese art market. Globally, online sales have doubled to a record high of US $12.4 billion, accounting for 25% of the global market total sale. Despite the pandemic, 5 art fairs were staged in Hong Kong from May to October. Travel restrictions in Hong Kong and the lack of international tourists hasn't put off organizers of art fairs, with a focus on local art lovers and online sales. These include the first ever Digital Art Fair Asia, featuring new media, immersive art, and NFTs. The development of art tech in Hong Kong acts as a differentiator in the development of creative industries. Virtual, augmented, mixed, and extended reality and NFTs are the newest disruptors within the art world. The use of interactive media provides new tools for audience engagement and immersive experience. The rising interest in NFTs are evident in the Hong Kong art market. We have seen a sensational performance in NFT art investment in 2021. Christie's first ever online NFT art auction sales in Asia in September, no time like present, has set the record of Hong Kong dollars 122 million. The star lot of Sotheby's auction sale in October had featured the award-winning film director Wong Kar-wai's first ever NFT creation, In the Mood for Love Day 1. NFT art sale debuted in Art Basel, Hong Kong in May this year, with Hong Kong gallery Aura presented its first NFTs. NFTs are also redefining the music and entertainment scene in Hong Kong, with more artists and musicians embracing the technology. Hong Kong famous musician Jonas Lam's single music NFT was auctioned at around $1.2 million US, setting a record for a single music NFT. Hong Kong-based singer-songwriter Han Jin Tang sold out his NFTs in just 1 minute in April this year, earning him 1.3 million Hong Kong dollars and a new record for a musician in the Chinese language music industry. Wedge Record announced its collaboration with Yuan Yuan, a Hong Kong-based multimedia collective, in releasing its first NFT album globally, Welcome to Hong Kong, which marks the beginning of the use of NFTs in the local music industry. In the next 2 slides, I would like to share with you 2 examples of creative industries companies that are using Hong Kong as a base to develop their Asian business and bring innovation to the industry in APAC. Phoenix Water Productions is an award-winning multinational company with locations in the UK and Hong Kong. They use Hong Kong as a base to develop high-concept films, TV series, and variety shows. They recently announced a partnership with Collectibles, the Fusion blockchain NFT company, in minting Fusion NFT for the television crime series Forensic Psychologists. Props in the TV series are minted as collectible Fusion NFT so that fans can own something that was used in shows that the idols acted in. The upcoming productions include Asia's first NFT drama series, Crypto Keepers. Another example is AdLudio, a UK ad tech company with offices in Hong Kong, Singapore, and Taipei. AdLudio had found success working with Chinese brands who are looking to expand and go to market outside of mainland China. Hong Kong's geographic proximity and existing networking infrastructure allows AdLudio to utilize Hong Kong as a key strategic hub to facilitate such relationships. Having the ability and technology to add a subtle interactive elements to advertising efforts, AdLudio can help their clients evolve towards premium micro brand experience, allowing their audience to create better connections through short but memorable content. In their experience, Hong Kong is a mobile-first market. People are glued to their phones, making it an extremely dynamic market for digital advertising. All these interesting case studies and the latest digital trends are now featured in these new publications by Invest Hong Kong and PwC, Creative Industries, Driving Innovation and Future Growth. Please download from the website or the event platform if you haven't done so already, or you can log on to Invest Hong Kong website to download it. In addition, there are other new publications on e-commerce, food industries, and why do business in Hong Kong. You are very welcome to download all these free publications. So this is my contact, and if you have any questions, feel free to contact me anytime. So this is the end of my presentation, and thank you very much for your time. I really look forward to meeting you in person in Hong Kong or virtually anywhere, anytime. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doris. Next will be a presentation from Ms. Cecilia Yao, Mainland China and Hong Kong media leader of PwC China. She will share with you PwC's insights and findings in entertainment and media industry, especially in OTT, internet advertising, and video gaming in Australia, Japan, and Korea market. Cecilia, please.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Before my presentation, let me introduce myself first. I'm Cecilia Yao, the entertainment and media industry leader of mainland China and Hong Kong. Today, I have a great pleasure to introduce our E&M outlook. So let's go through the agenda first. Today, I would like to cover our E&M outlook overview, and then I will jump into each segment, OTT, internet advertising, and video game. I will particularly focus on 3 countries, which are Australia, Japan, and also South Korea. So firstly, let's have an overview of our outlook. This is our 22nd years of our global outlook. This is a comprehensive data set with our commentary, which covers 14 segments and also 53 territories. All the entertainment segment, if you can name it, pretty much has been included in our outlook. And the major markets, even the small market, we have been covered around the globe. This year, our global outlook is for the global, the CAGR growth is 4.6. Asia Pacific is slightly better than the global, which is 5.1. As I said, I'm going to focus on 3 particular countries. Australia, the CAGR growth is 4.6 in the next coming 5 years. Japan, which is a mature country, the growth rate is around 2.5%. South Korea is just slightly behind Australia, which will have a 4.3% CAGR growth. So as I said, this is a big data set. We have a lot of analysis across different segments and different countries. From there, we have summarized some of the insight and observation. What will be the next few years like, and what are the key changes to the entertainment media industry? So firstly, box office, we anticipate it will have us continuing shifting from the traditional viewing way to the streaming platform, which has been the phenomenon observation during the COVID time, which will be prolonged and will be persist in the coming 5 years. Another one is shift from the universe to metaverse. That means a more open and multi-brand environment surrounding the consumer, which gives the opportunity for the supplier to the advertiser. They can directly reach out to their customers. Another key observation is the user-generated content, which will continue to attract a lot of viewers and which will create a lot of content. Particularly the short form video, which getting the popularity in this few years and which will be continue to gaining the popularity in the coming 5 years. So also we have seen the regulatory changes. A lot of countries, not just China, they have either introduced some new policy or proposed to introduce new policy and regulation to tighten the data privacy, to tighten the antitrust competition law, or in some country, like later we will cover Korea, they actually introduce some foreign digital tax. So those are the key changes to the overall environment. Another one is with the technology advancement, there will be destruction to the over distribution channel, like NFTs, which enable better protection of the intellectual property, which enable the creator, they can reach out to their consumer in more efficient way and in more safe way to protect their intellectual property and be able to monetize their intellectual property throughout over the internet base. So now let's take a look of the overall segment of OTT. So OTT is actually have a short history of development. Although in US, the OTT services has been launched for a long time, but in Asia Pacific, if you look at the graph, the fast growth year is actually from the year of 2016, which has to be thanks to the technology and the compressing technology as well, which enable the viewer be able to view the streaming site in more satisfactory way and also can enjoy the better content without major legacy or delay. So if you look at the overall Asia Pacific landscape, China is one of the largest Asia Pacific country, right, which is the second largest of the global leading country in terms of TTD, followed by Japan. And Australia is actually the third in the Asia Pacific country. So this is an overall view. OTT actually gaining a lot of viewers during the COVID-19 when there's a social distance restriction and also lockdown period. So people will stay home and look at viewing their content through the OTT format. This growth will continue, although in some of the countries, because of high jump during the spike, during the lockdown period, in later year, they will have a relatively lower growth rate, just like Australia. Australia, pretty much example of the Western country. While compared to like Japan, in Japan, it's actually the restriction mainly within the Tokyo area without the major impact to the rest of the Japan. So in Japan, you can see which is a smooth growth. Although still they recorded year-on-year high growth during the 2020, but still the growth can be a grow smoothly in the coming years. South Korea as well, which have small spike during the lockdown period, but the effect is not as much as in like Australia, US, and the rest of the Western world. So let's take a closer look of Australia. Australia, which has a high penetration of broadband and also the mobile phone. So there's a significant development of OTT. As you are aware, Australia is a major sports country, and a lot of viewers, they are sports fans. So during the COVID period, sports streaming platform actually captured significant growth in terms of the viewers. Also, in Australia, the overall market, which is dominated by major players like the Netflix and also US content. Although like Channel 9 and also Foresee, they launched the local content, but they are facing strong competition from the US-based OTT service provider. Going forward, they are facing the high competition in terms of the price. So with the keen competition, the price will further drive down, and which has a significant impact to their pay TV industry. People are moving from pay TV to OTT. When we look at Japan, which is a quite different market, because of their language, because of the culture, which create a natural barrier to the foreign operator to go into the market. Although this few years we see some players like the Netflix and some of the other Hulu, they go into the market, but the market capture in terms of market shares, which is significantly lower by their local operator. Also, the pay TV operator, they've been captured the technology. So when the technology become available, they start to roll out the catch-up mode to enable their pay TV viewer to catch up over the internet, which also help them to hold up the audience. And also, their content are very unique and in their local language. So they have a loyal subscriber, can strongly capture the pay TV viewers in their market. So this trend will be consistently persist. In the beforehand, I actually show you only Australia, the OTT market will be able to capture or bypass the pay TV market. In Japan and Korea, pay TV is still the dominating media, which is still far leading the OTT market. So in Korea, although it have a similar characteristic like the language, the culture, however, in this market is become a little bit unique. Korea is actually one of the content creator the location for the Asian market, which have a significant influence over the other market. So in this market, you can see the other operators, they actually been cooperating with the local producer, like the Netflix. They actually commission the local producer to produce very the popular content, for example, like Kingdom, and also the recently Squid Game, which have a significant influence to the rest of the Asian market. Okay, in terms of internet advertising, as we are aware, Australia, Japan, and Korea, as I said, the penetration of broadband or the mobile is extremely high. The broadband pretty much in this three market has over 100%, which enable the internet advertising distributed effectively. From this chart, you can see even today, most of the countries, these three countries, has reached the penetration or the market share of internet advertising over half. Okay, in terms of the Australia uniqueness, the short form, the video platform like TikTok, they're gaining the popularity. TikTok actually grew the user from 500,000 to over 3 million users in just 1 year during the COVID period. And however, the regulation, as I said, is coming in, which is the first country passed a new media bargain code that will impose the significant restriction to the foreign operator. Japan, again, is a penetration is extremely high. However, this is a more mobile type of internet advertising. So in Japan, wired internet advertising is expected to slow down, and the growth for the mobile advertising is expected to be grow continuously, which is also shared a similarity in Korea. Korea has a long developed e-commerce over their mobile platform. So in the past few years, it already has captured high growth. So during this coming 5 years, we anticipate Korea will only have a 5.8 healthy growth, but not as much as Australia will have high growth in terms of the advertising. So video gaming. If you look at this chart, mainly the social gaming overtake the traditional gaming in most of the countries. However, if you look at Australia, which is a particular example, the mobile gaming is extremely popular, like the Pokemon Among Us. Those are actually popular big earners. So this is over the mobile platform. With the 5G rollout, we believe this trend will continue to grow. Mobile gaming will be the dominating force or driving force in this market. While in Japan, the console still capture the hardcore of fans. It still accounts for the traditional game still accounts for 1/3 of the market share. However, Switch has been bypassed PS4 in this year. We will anticipate to see the new gaming of console gaming come out, or a new console to come out to capture the market with the advance of technology, with better of experience of the graphic. For Korea, it's a little bit different. It is most passionate and most exciting place for the traditional gaming. Almost 90% they are still captured by PC gaming user in terms of the revenue. It's actually the highest per capita video gaming revenue from this market. Esports is developed particularly well in this country. It has long history of esports development. While compared to Japan, surprisingly, it has low esports penetration rate. This has created a different market dynamic among this Asia Pacific region. So this is pretty much of my today's sharing, and really thank you.
Thank you, Cecilia. Now let's move on to the panel discussion. Doris and Cecilia will also join with our special guests from Australia, Japan, and Korea. Our moderator for today's discussion will be Ms. Kayla Hardy, founder and managing director of Blacklight International, a dynamic design and manufacturing firm showcasing specialized lighting. Kayla has contributed to a number of award-winning lighting and interior projects throughout Asia Pacific with her 16 years extensive experience in the creative field. Let's welcome Kayla. Kayla, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Well, I hope everyone is looking forward to some exciting dialogue as much as I am. We will offer a range of questions to our panelists today that cover interesting insights on how the creative industries drive innovation and growth. So our panelists will comprise of Ms. Stella Yim, CEO of Stella A&C International, Mr. Daniel Quintner, Senior Producer at Naked Ink, and Mr. Mark Bergen, CEO of Driven by Design. So I'll pass it over to our panelists to give a short introduction of themselves and their companies. And Daniel, if you wanted to take it away.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Daniel Quintner. I'm a senior producer at Naked Ink in Tokyo, Japan. Naked has been immersive experience company, and originally from video production, moving toward like projection mapping and immersive experience. We've been developing that for the past 10 years. We've been working all over the world, not only like in Japan, but of course Hong Kong, Shanghai, Beijing, more recently in Paris, and coming to US also. So we're using not only like projection, but sound, also like the scent. We create really a full experience 360 for pleasure of people and the art and creativity. So I hope you come to see one of our exhibition very very soon. And thank you very much for joining today.
Hi, Mark. Please go ahead.
Oh, fantastic. Hello, I'm Mark Bergen, the founder of Driven by Design. We run a series of design awards around the world, including the Hong Kong Design Awards, London, Paris, Berlin, New York, Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane. The work that we do is about recognising the accelerated change that's happening in societies. And if we think about where the new opportunities for things like the over-the-top networks, or as Daniel just explained with Naked, it's going to be about the creation of new things, solving new problems, and making new propositions to people. That's what our business is about, shining a spotlight on those people. So it's really interesting having a conversation about what's happening in the Asian region and where do people like Invest Hong Kong sit in helping to bring leverage to people who are the fast movers in that market. Thank you.
Some exciting dialogue. And Stella, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you so much for inviting me as a panel speaker at this exciting event. I'm Stella Ing, founder and CEO of Stella Agency International. We are Korea and Hong Kong-based art, craft, and culture lifestyle platform company. So we are running two platforms. One is Store, which is covering art, crafts, and lifestyle products, and Buttari, which is handling Korean premium culinary company, culinary products. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stella. So with that, we'd like to open the forum and we will go to our first question. And the first question being proposed to the panel today is, have you seen or experienced an increase or decline in creativity or innovation since the start of the global pandemic? Daniel, would you like to take away?
Yeah, well, I will start with it.
Great.
I personally think that we've seen an increase in creativity because with the pandemic, people stay at home and they kind of slow down a lot in their life, and they got time to think about it. And when you have time to think, you start to be a little bit more creative. And when you start to be creative, you start to look at much different way of resolving problem and finding solutions. So I personally believe that there's a lot of new creative ideas came up from it, and generate innovation. You can see just the idea of like metaverse who came really faster than planned thanks to the pandemic. I don't
So
know if the other one.
with that then, would you say that it would be good for companies to start looking at taking away from what they've learned in this pandemic and fostering that into their business to help produce creativity that will ultimately push on innovation?
Yeah, I think it gave time, as I say, like till now. I mean, before the pandemic, people were running nonstop, like trying to catch up, and like impossible innovation, and they were not taking a rest and to step back and rethink about it. So I think this creativity that has been brought up during the pandemic allowed this company like to create eventually innovation by listening a little bit more to people who had time to think about it. I don't know, Mark wants to say something, so.
Yeah. So I think it's really interesting. The pandemic has in many ways, it's an acceleration event. And so things that were on the cusp of coming into mainstream all of a sudden jump forward because we were open to alternatives. As well as being an acceleration for nascent technologies, we've also seen if you've got a brand and you thought you had 5 years left in your brand before you had to do brand uplift, as the markets have accelerated, people have needed to go and attend to their brand immediately because of the acceleration that's happened in the change. Restaurants have had to turn around and accelerate their interior design changes. And globally, there is a short supply of talented designers to go work on projects, which is something that only a few years ago would have been very hard to imagine. But every design studio that we work with around the globe is hiring more people, they have bigger briefs, they have more demanding clients, and that's all as a result of the pandemic. So I think if we look at what's happened from an acceleration perspective is it's really like we were maybe driving in second gear and now we're in top gear and the markets have really taken off.
That's an excellent way to look at it, and also a perfect segue, unless Doris has any further input on that question.
Actually, I think the pandemic has accelerated the need for innovation. And we see many companies in order, or I shouldn't say in order to survive, or actually to capture all these challenges and opportunities and turn it into opportunities, they have to innovate. And it actually accelerated creativity and innovation because I mentioned a couple of examples in my presentation, but there are more than that. And of course, in this booklet, which I've introduced in my presentation, we have captured a lot of other companies and how they reinvent themselves during this period. So I think it's definitely when you meet challenge, you will think of ways of overcoming it.
Great, excellent. So then, if we look at the creative industries as a whole, it's really made up of two driving groups: artistic creatives and commercial creatives. So, Mark, I'll put this question to you first. How do these two groups work to drive two different but very important programs?
Yeah, I think so. We flip between the term creative and innovation quite easily, and so we wind up where you have the commercial creatives, people who are trying to go and say, I have a person who is asking me how I can solve a business problem for them, and that means that there's actually an imperative to go use some invested funds to go actually leverage to create an outcome that has commercial benefit. And then we see the creative, the cultural creative people, they're making statements which are, I think this could be useful to our society. They're making challenges and propositions that may not in themselves have economic leverage, but they do have cultural leverage. And so if you then combine that with people who are doing technology innovation and the creative side there, you wind up with technology, you wind up with culture, and when you apply those two together, you wind up with fantastic design innovation that comes out. And we need to understand all three aspects of the innovation cycle in creative output. If we only consider one, we underplay the deal. And when I looked at the presentation that Doris made, there was a fair amount of it that was talking about not the creation of content, but the trading of content. What a fantastic innovation that's there, because people are trying to say, we want to go and actually see that we're getting leverage from the investment that we made. And I think that's so important that we consider not only how we're creating digital assets, digital output, but how we actually looking at going through its life cycle, creating the maximum value for the investors, creating the maximum distribution, and it's all about that ecosystem that needs to fit together. So it's a plural conversation rather than a single conversation.
Right. Do you have any to add to that? I think the next question off the back of that is, how do we implement that into a framework? You know, there's obviously understanding after seeing the pandemic, but how do we build out a framework as a company or organization to really implement that?
The types of frameworks are...
Yeah.
Mark, it's for you.
I thought it might have been, but it wasn't directly, so I was just pausing.
Sorry, apologies,
I
Mark.
was trying to be polite, but the pause was obviously just a millisecond too long, so thank you for helping me. Those frameworks that we put in place are understanding what type of creative output are you involved in. If you're involved in commercial creative output, then it's a very different framing than if you're in cultural creative output. The cultural creative output is generally output which is there as a proposition provocation, and it may or it may not actually have economic leverage. But if you're involved with commercial, it is very important to understand it's not about you, it's going to be about the end user, because if the end user doesn't decide that this is making their life better, if it hasn't solved something for them, an unmet need, they're unlikely to adopt it. And therefore, if they don't adopt it, it's not going to go anywhere. Whereas the person who's in the cultural creative sector, it's probably a lot about them. And I think that's the real difference between artists and designers. A designer is doing something for a commercial purpose, an artist is generally doing it for a cultural purpose ahead of the commercial purpose.
Right. And I think we could all agree that recognizable outputs of creativity driving innovation, such products as immersive technology, art tech, and NFTs. So I think we could probably dive a little bit deeper into these themes. And Daniela, I'll ask you first, from your experience with immersive experiences, why do you think that more people are turning to this form of digital art, and would you foresee it eventually creating a downturn in traditional art trades?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people turn to digital art because it became much more, let's say, reachable. I mean, our traditional, when you look at traditional art, it's been like really catering to the elite or like to people with certain knowledge, and digital art kind of made it a little bit more open to the people. In the same time that you have a new generation who came out, which is much more digital and native. Um, and that's that the understanding of art is very, very different. There's a change in a shift in the way we understand art. I mean, we can see it with all the way that art has been created also over the time. I mean, I come from a design background and I couldn't draw anything on a piece of paper, but then the computer came out and then suddenly I could create something. So definitely like digital art allow people to create faster, but also like assess the work faster and access to it, where traditional arts still remain very, very strong though. I mean, if you look at the numbers in the sales, the global sales in traditional arts, it still remain very strong, still remain like actually it's been growing during the pandemic 134%, if I remember well. And but also you have digital art with NFT and all this new trend who's been exploding exponentially. So I believe that both have their market. Is just give access to different level in the society and generation too.
Right. And I think, Stella, you could add to this with your background in art and especially on the education, with education taking a large shift to focusing on digitization. How do you see traditional arts and culture merging with these modern technologies that we're talking about?
Thank you, Kyla. I think it's good that the education sectors are shifting and focus more on digital technology. Digitalization has affected and will more affect our industry. Traditional artists should think about how to merge such traditional beauties with digital technologies. One of our approaches to merge them is to show culture through SNS platforms, which is based on digital tech rather than physical gallery spaces. So we were lucky during the pandemic when just traffic has been reduced due to coronavirus, because this pandemic just period has extended, and then it has become familiar concept to many people that even culture art and craft are just displayed through online platforms, especially visual platforms. The pandemic pushed these industries to merge them somehow. And people these days get used to moving images. And then also there is a limitation if you just try to show crafts only through photos. So we've been trying to combine showing crafts physically, which is conventional way of having exhibition with the media arts, and which is upcoming digital tech-based art format. So we believe it's been attracting and getting good responses from the people. Actually. Yeah.
Okay, great. So that's one way of keeping up with the fast changing pace
Yes.
of consumer behavior. So where do you predict that these consumer behaviors will go over the next, say, 10 years?
Thanks for the question. To be honest, it's difficult to predict what may happen in coming 10 years, especially given that tech developments and changes are coming to the market much faster than the past. It's more difficult to predict the future, I think. However, one thing for sure that I can predict is more digitalization of many things. So creative industry need to invest more in these areas. For example, applications, Facebook, Instagram, podcast, NFT also, etc. So it's because customers go digital and then they just use mobile phone every minute, even me. And so even art industry need to go digital because that is where the people are now. Yeah. So our company has been trying to be more digital and not relying on offline locations. We want to invest more on digital platforms such as our own platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and media commerce. Also, to understand what the customer wants and where they are moving to, we've been trying to spend more time talking to them in many digital ways. Thank you, Kyle.
Great. I think, Cecilia, you were supporting this question as well.
Yes, definitely. I would say like consumer behavior over the past 10 years has been changing a lot. If you can imagine people moving from traditional media to the digital world, and also they are more like in the past, they rely on linear service provider to the video on demand. And also, if you look at the format of those video, in the past, most of the time we see the long form of video, and now it's at the short form of video is getting really popular. So if you ask me what will happen in the 10 years time, you can imagine like nowadays people, even like the elderly or we don't need to mention the younger generation, they are more digital than in the past. So in the 10 years time, they are even more digital. So I would say the whole creative industry, we have to embrace the technology. So technology is going to be a tool to promote the art, to promote the creativity. Although I wouldn't say the physical or traditional art will die, but traditional art are going to leverage the new platform, new technology to even to ensure the monetization is even more smooth and more safe, like the NFT. So I would say in the next 10 years, people will be more tech savvy, and then we will leverage more on the digital platform. Not only the platform, but the data has been accumulated there. People are use a more algorithm or the data analytic to promote the art transaction, art commerce, and also to help the creativity get the necessary resources and necessary fund to continue to promote and continue to grow. This is my view.
Great. I think design innovation has also been a large driver of consumer behavior over the years. And Mark, I would say to you, design innovation being the culmination of unmet user needs, combining technology innovation and with cultural innovation. So how do we accelerate the understanding of how design solves, technology breaks through, and culture develops our understanding of oneself in this space?
I think what's really important is that we need to assess whether we're pushing things at people or if we're doing it for them. And if you're in a market where you think that you can just keep pushing, you're probably not going to be doing design innovation.
Right.
Companies like Microsoft found that under their former CEOs, Steve Ballmer, they were pushing their product. They didn't have a product that solved their customers' needed. They were pushing their product at people. And the new CEO came in and said, well, how about we just make products that people find delight in? And they cut their marketing budget by 2/3. and they're selling more product with more satisfied customers because they're doing what the customer needs. They're not trying to push something that they had previously done that may have been flawed. And so I think it's really important that we actually work out who has primacy. Shareholders love to go get a return on their investment, but shareholders hate when the expense to create that return on the investment is larger than it needs to be. And what design innovation does is it says, let's find the shortest path to go get the maximum amount of dollars from a customer who is satisfied with the product and will pay a premium. And so there is a very different economic model where you're saying we're not going to push products at people, we're going to curate products, and we're going to make sure that they actually go beyond their expectations, and that creates delight, satisfaction, and opens up their imagination. If you do that, design innovation can actually lead to an incredible future for organizations. And we see the most valuable companies in the world are all doing that. So I think that's where the leadership is, to say, do you want to be actually the most efficient company? That's probably the one that meets your customers' needs rather than pushes an old model.
Did you have anything? No. So we'll move over to discussing another product, which is obviously on everyone's lips at the moment, NFTs. And I think we'll put this question over to you, Doris. So is NFT a good benchmark of creativity driving innovation, or in this case of innovation, or is it a case of innovation requiring to catch up to creativity?
Well, I think it is a very interesting question, Kyla. But creativity and innovation, I think it goes together.
Yeah.
And innovation opens up more opportunities for creative people to create new things. And sometimes I think creative minds will find its way of expressing themselves leveraging innovation and technology. And for NFTs, I think it opens up opportunities for everyone. It's not just artists, filmmakers, or musicians. Even though when we look at big names like Jack Dorsey selling the first tweet with $2.9 million US, and people selling his 69 million digital art, these are big names. But actually, ordinary people can make NFTs. I read recent articles from BBC. A 12-year-old boy, he created some very cute pixelated weird whales.
Mm-hmm.
And he sold it as NFT for £290,000. I mean, just just during his school holiday, and it's a 12-year-old boy. So I think it gives way to many people to create creatively.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think it also opens new ways of creativity, because I'll use another famous artist like Damien Hirst.
Mm-hmm.
His recent project, The Currency, has a very new way of playing with NFT. So he put up 10,000 NFT for sale. And at the same time, to go along with these 10,000 NFTs, a physical artwork. So the buyer have to decide, the catch is the buyer have to decide after a few months whether they want to own the NFT or whether they want to own the physical artwork.
Right.
So actually this creates a very new kind of debate. And because one of the collectors from Hong Kong, he said he already has offer from other people like 52,000 for these 2,000 NFTs. I mean, $2,000 NFT. And he refused to sell it. But he has many sleepless nights trying to figure out, would he sell the NFT? Or, I mean, would he own the NFT, or would he own the physical work? Because either one has to be destroyed if he didn't choose that. So it is a very interesting way of expressing. And you can just see creative minds will find its way in expressing themselves through technology or leveraging technology.
So what impact do you foresee this having on the industry? Is it going to be a positive impact, and where is that going to go over the next, say, 3 to 5 years? Are we just going to have pure growth?
Well, I think it will definitely have an impact on a whole spectrum of creative industries, because it's all about IP industry, and people will think of new ways of expressing themselves. And I'll also have researched some information which is quite interesting, because NFT is, of course, $1 billion business now, and it has hit 1.2 billion in the first quarter, 1.3 in the second quarter this year, and then 10.7 billion in the third quarter. So you see the curve is rising.
Yes.
And according to Morgan Stanley, it's estimated that the NFT market will grow to around 300 billion by 2030.
Right.
And it will impact the gaming industry, even Electronic Arts, a very famous gaming company, will say NFT will be the future of gaming, part of the future, not all the future.
Yeah.
And we see luxurious brands also collaborating with gaming companies and the metaverse to sell their products in the metaverse.
Yes.
So I think it will have a major impact. Maybe in the next 3 to 5 years, we won't be talking about NFT because you and I will be owning a lot of NFT.
And you'll just be on holiday.
Well, yeah, so are we going to shop? Which NFT are we going to shop?
I hope so. I hope so. That was a hot tip, isn't
yeah,
it?
but one thing I want to emphasize is also about the environmental impact
Correct.
of NFT, because we need to strike a balance.
Yes.
And also there's a financial risk because not everyone is very familiar with cryptocurrency.
Yes, yes. I think that's potentially a whole nother panel discussion
Yes,
around
and
the
I'm not the expert
sustainability
there as well.
efforts of NFTs. But I think I'm really glad that you touched base on that today, because it is something that we need stronger awareness on and a lot more innovation on how we can continue NFTs at a more sustainable way. So thank you very much. We are getting closer to closing time. Sorry, Daniel, I see you put your hand up. Would you like to?
I think related to NFT, we're really in the beginning of the whole digital world. NFT is for now like just for most of the time like a visual assets, and eventually that's very stable. It's not evolutive. But we see that NFT will grow toward like an evolutive assets that will grow with. If you talk about gaming, you will have like an assets that will grow during the gaming, and that will increase value during the performance that it will have. The same way, then you will have like a piece of art that will be evolutive piece of art that will be generated by AI and all those things. So I think we're just in the beginning. So if you talk about 5 to 10 years, I think the NFT of today definitely will be very different of what we have today. And if I might add an extra things, is that with the meta world, that metaverse that's been creating all over, you can see that already. Like the creative show are switching to something that's in between. I don't know if you heard about Alter Ego in the US, developed by Fox, where you have like it's basically the voice show, but people create their own avatar with their own memes, and you're getting into something very, very unique, and people will be able to invest into it as an NFT, and those memes will succeed, backed up by real human and all the things. So we're just in the beginning of all this universe, and I always take as a reference the latest Spielberg movie, Ready Player One, because that's the only thing that we're missing these days is the haptic combination, where like people can feel and all the things. It's very exciting what's
Just at the
coming.
very beginning. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's going to be more immersive. It's going to be more immersive, and it's going to be more immersive at home also.
Well, I think we all look forward to hearing more discussions on that, and definitely seeing how all of this unfolds, and hopefully being a part of it as well. I just wanted to reach out to all of our viewers today and let you know that we do still have some very interesting and exciting questions, and we will still be reaching Q&A. We're very, very sorry that we've had so much interesting discussion that we are running slightly over time, so we will add an extra 10 minutes to today's session. So we hope that you can stay with us, and if you can't, please write us your questions and we will have them responded to directly after this session today. So please stay with us for a little bit longer. I will move on to our closing question for the panel today, and that I will propose to, I'll put it to you, Mark, first, but Daniel, Stella, everyone, please feel free to become involved. The closing question is, what are the opportunities you see in doing business in Hong Kong, especially in the creative and digital sectors? So, Mark, would you like to open that for us?
Yeah, Hong Kong's a really interesting market that when you think Hong Kong, you've got to think not only the population of Hong Kong, but the influence that it has in the region. And we see most of the design studios that are involved with the Hong Kong Design Awards are doing work beyond Hong Kong Island. They're either doing it in Greater China or they're doing it in other Asian cities. And so I think it's actually really interesting that people consider Hong Kong as being a capital for the region and a capital for creativity. It's a great melting pot. There's a lot of very senior players in the market, and I think it's the place that a lot of people should find themselves.
Great, thank you. Mark, or Daniel or Stella?
Yeah, I think I agree with Mark on most of the things. Hong Kong, it's definitely a platform where like you reach like a Chinese market for sure, and other markets, and we do have like in Naked some experience in Hong Kong, and the feedback is really interesting, and the open mind and the excitement that they have for innovation and creativity is there.
Yes, I still see in these two sectors that Hong Kong will have more opportunities and more practical opportunities in the dealings of media arts, including creative arts. Hong Kong is still the place where you see people, galleries, auction houses, and the financiers from all over the world. This may be the best place in the world because we have all these. So also Hong Kong is the place where East meet West, West meet East. That's where the dealings business will have very good chances of success, I think. So our company will still try to focus on the dealings area, but in a digital way. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I completely agree. And Derek, do you have anything that you would like to?
I think I can have 1 hour to talk about
Yes,
Hong Kong or more than
me
that.
too.
But I think I also want to ask Cecilia, because Cecilia also come across many companies coming from mainland or overseas interested in Hong Kong. How do you see the opportunities in the next few years in Hong Kong?
I think Hong Kong has a best position and a best cultural position as well. We always say Hong Kong is the place when West meet East. So we in Hong Kong, we pretty much understand the Chinese culture. We also understand the Western world as well. As you are all aware, China government is recently highly promoting to export the Chinese culture to the outside world to let the rest of the world understand the China a bit more. So I guess Hong Kong can definitely take this advantage to leverage our understanding of the China and also helping the China culture and China creativity to go to the outside world. Also, Hong Kong is the best place for the fundraising and to engage the fund activity. We recently passed a law to lower the test fee for the fund setup. So I have now meeting a lot of people from the commercial world. They are very keen to set up the NFT funds, to set up the creativity fund in Hong Kong, and then to helping the local creativity industry and also bring this creativity industry to the rest of the world. So I definitely agree with all the speakers. Hong Kong has the best position to grow in the next 10 years.
And if I may, I just want to add one more element that I've been covering in my presentation is the startup scene in Hong Kong is also a very vibrant startup scene. We have a very mature startup ecosystem that can support entrepreneurship to flourish here in Hong Kong. And we also have good connections to Asians or international investors, and good incubation and support programs from the government as well as other agencies to support the growth of these kinds of startups here. And despite the pandemic, actually, last year, we know every many business suffer. But actually, the startup scene here in Hong Kong is still growing.
It's growing.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's very encouraging.
Yeah, I mean, I can even personally attest to that. Hong Kong has been an excellent place to be an entrepreneur, and it has access to not only clients but investment and many realms that you need as a startup. So, yeah, I think that was a perfect closing. We do still have 5 minutes left that we could answer some online questions. I don't see too many coming through here. We must have been very thorough with our discussion. That's correct,
not,
right? No,
yeah.
we don't have any online questions.
No, I think we have tackled that already.
Okay, great. So it looks like we have thoroughly covered everyone's topics and interests during this panel session. I can throw to an open forum if anybody has a closing comment or anything that they would like to say. If not, we would thank our guests and close the session. No? Nobody else?
Maybe if nobody has a final comments, then I'll just give a reminder to all our participants today that this booklet will be in PDF format, will be sent to all the participants afterwards. And hopefully you can get more information out of this PwC and Invest Hong Kong's joint effort in letting you know more about the digital ecosystem of the creative industries here in our city.
Thank you, Doris. So I just wanted to give one more thank you to our panelists today, Stella Yim, Mark Bergen, and Daniel Quintner. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us and share all of your experience and insights, as well as Cecilia and Doris for making all of this happen today. It's been a very informative and great session. So I suppose we will close out now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Have a great day.
You too.
Oh, thank you, Kyler, for moderating a very interesting panel discussion and all the speakers for giving us their insights and inputs of how the creative industry would develop and what kind of opportunities there are lying there in the future. Unfortunately, we have run out of time. Before we end the webinar, I would like to ask everyone's cooperation to answer our questionnaires, to give us your feedback on today's webinars, inform us the topics of your interest and comments, and any additional questions if you have any. Thank you very much for joining our webinar today, and we hope to see you again soon. Goodbye.